lot of things back then there anyways.
Yeah. So, all right.
Can you imagine everybody trying to use the internet and everything?
Oh man, it's crazy. So, all right, we're live now. All right, I got Dave Herrera here. We were just trying to do this over Zoom, Dave, and because of the storms here that's been happening, the ice storms, we couldn't do it. We were like 15 minutes in, everything was failing, and so now we're here doing it over the phone. So, Dave, I really appreciate your patience. You're a real champ for that. I really appreciate it, and I do apologize again over the air here.
Yeah, no need to apologize. It's all good, man. I'm just glad you guys are safe. That's all that matters.
Yeah, man. So we were talking about your new show called The Shit Show, which is on YouTube and stuff. Talk about that real quick, and then we'll get into stuff we ain't talked about yet.
Yeah, so The Shit Show you can find on YouTube. There's a trailer out for The Shit Show to give you a sneak peek of all 3 episodes. The first episode is called Back to Hollywood. It's introduction to me and my buddies. And we're on the tour bus on our way back from shooting Hollywood Signs Song. You can check out Hollywood Signs online as well. So what The Shit Show is, it's basically behind the scenes of Dave Herrera to get to know me, my friends, my family, and I have a bit of a chaotic, crazy life. So you can check it out on YouTube. It's called The Shit Show. All Groupies Wanted.
And what is, when you were doing the show, The Shit Show, when was kind of the point where you were like, okay, this is kind of cool? Because sure, you can film the first episode and be like this, and then you're going to go to the second one because you think the first one's good. But kind of where do you think it found its peak where you're like, okay, I'm going to continue to film this and we're going to do this reality show?
I'm not sure. I don't think we ever got to that point. We just said, hey, you know what, let's throw this together and let's have the camera crews kind of follow us around and put the show together and we'll roll with it. So there is some obscene nature throughout each of the episodes. So it's not meant for kids. But, for people, I've got the reactions I've gotten from it. They say, man, it's definitely entertaining, but there's some shocking content. So we like it. It's just a typical day in our life. So it's just one of those things you got to check out and hopefully you relate to it. Life's not easy, and you got to have fun and enjoy it while you can.
You say that people were shocked by it. Are you just kind of not that kind of person in public? Is that kind of why they were shocked by it?
No, it's not necessarily that. It's just more of I guess they're like, damn, I can't believe you put that stuff out. Most people would edit it and bleep it and do stuff like that, but we said, heck with it. You know what? It's raw footage, and that'll allow you to get to know who I am and who my buddies are, and who my family is, because my kids and family and stuff are in it as well. But you'll see dirt bikes, bonfires. I mean, drinking beers. We do little mini bike races, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I think, in my honest opinion, because that's how I do the podcast, I think realness is the way to go. Don't hold anything back. And it's like, if you screw up, why not keep it in? Because that shows that you're just human. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's what it's about. And when you look at the first video, Hollywood Sign, and then you watch visiting Nashville, I mean, you're like, okay, cool. But I mean, we got some other videos that'll be a little bit rougher. Those are pretty clean. There's a song in The Shit Show called "Boys We're Back in Town," and we quietly released that one out onto the streaming platforms. And it's a rougher, it's a little bit rougher song. It's not the roughest I have by any means, but it has some cuss words in it. Because most people are like, keep it clean for radio or whatever, and I'm like, I want to release some stuff that's not for radio. I want to have fun with it. So you can check out that song "Boys We're Back in Town" on streaming platforms. That's the song to The Shit Show, really.
What's the difference? Can you figure out a difference, and do you see a difference in quietly releasing a song versus, publicly, this Friday, next Friday, 3 weeks away?
The initial reactions we get from people are like, oh, wow, I wasn't even aware you're going to release it. That's cool. And it's almost like saying, hey, Christmas is 4 to 6 weeks away. You got to wait for your present, wait for your present, wait for your present. You build up this anticipation, and you might let a lot of people down, right? And instead of just saying, hey, listen to the song, here you go. And that's the type of reaction people had. I was like, oh, that's cool. It's quite a surprise. I wasn't aware you had anything like that. I appreciate it. Because we're just trickling these songs. We did Hollywood, and then we did Visiting Nashville, and there was a big space in between when we released those two. And I said, look, I got to get more content out there. I wanted to release more songs quicker. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you're not supposed to do that, I guess. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll get this one going. And then I think next month I'll release another one. But this song, Boys Were Back in Town, it really is about me and my buddies when we go out and do a live show or do whatever. And we raise hell and have fun. And I thought it was appropriate for the shit show because that's pretty much what we do.
Yeah, and I wonder, when you go to the doctor, Dave, and when you're sitting there and you're supposed to put your occupation, what do you put? Since you're an independent songwriter, singer-songwriter, what do you put as your occupation?
I'll put real estate. I do some real estate stuff too, but I'll put real estate.
Oh, okay. Okay. See, I didn't know that. I didn't. Now this is interesting because I didn't realize you did real estate, and I'm very interested in real estate. And I have one of my best friends. She is now a real estate agent, and she took the real estate exam, and she failed it like 2 or 3 times. And is it really as tough as a lot of people say it is? Because it's considered one of the hardest tests to do.
Okay. Well, I don't know what it's like in Mississippi.
Okay.
Or where your friend lives, because it's different in every state with the
Right.
closures and everything. But California, it's a bit tricky. It is, and I mean, there's a lot of content that's always changing. So if you have renewals and stuff, there's always new laws and things that come into place. But it's not easy. I mean, it's not. So for those that take it, I mean, just you have to study your butt off. And I mean, if you have kids and a family, I can see where you can forget about the studying part here because you're taking care of your family. So you go in and take the test without studying, and you could fail it. So, but it is tough, man. There's a lot of questions, and they're tricky questions. But you'll get through it, man. If you go do it, just have the confidence and roll.
Oh no! No, I'm not doing that. No.
Come on.
No, I don't have the patience, man. Let me tell you what I did. I tried going back to school. Because let's see, I graduated in 2016, I think, and I took a semester off, and I think I went in January opposed to going to August. And when I did that, I went in January, and then that's when I decided to start the podcast. So like 4 years ago, I started to do the podcast, and then I realized, I can't have 2 day jobs, do the podcast, and go to school at the same time. That is a little rough. And so I had to wind up giving up school part. But, I think a lot of people that can say, I don't have a lot of time, just means I don't really want to do it. But that's what I used to think. But now, knowing that I juggle all these things at once, I realize how precious time is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. You're right. And that's, I do the real estate gig and music, and I've taken what I've learned over whatever time I've had and tried to apply it towards my music, and I just, juggling the two. Real estate allows you a lot more freedoms. I mean, you can work out of your car. I mean, that's really your mobile office. And you go to your meetings or your showings or your tours or whatever, and then you're right back at it. For example, I would be in between meetings, and I'd be working at the studio on vocals, and then I'd wait until 10 or 15 minutes before the meeting, and I'd shoot on over there because it was close or whatever. But I would just constantly grind out and try to work on different style or a technique or something with the song. So I'm just trying to maximize my time, but you're absolutely right. Time is precious. It's one of those things that you have to, when you start getting a little bit older and you understand how precious it is, you respect it more.
What's the last book you've read, Dave?
The last book would have been, what was it? Well, it's going to be one of the kids' books. It's probably one of those choo-choo train books that the kids have. honestly, I haven't read a book in a little bit of time because I've been so damn busy. You know what I mean? So that's gonna be a tough question to answer.
So you mentioned that you have kids. Is that something that you've always wanted to do, is to be a dad? Because because the reason I asked that is because now I'm very open to asking those questions, because I always thought, guys are like me, I don't want nothing bogging me down. I don't want, a kid to keep me from doing what I want to do. And then I was reading Matthew McConaughey's book, and he was like, that's the one thing I wanted in life. I could be a failure, but as long as I had kids, I could teach them good wisdom and knowledge, then I was okay in life. So I wonder, Dave, have you always wanted kids, or is it just something, it just popped right out of the blue?
No, yeah, always. I've always wanted kids. But I just felt like I was, like, I wasn't sure, like, first off, getting married and having a wife, you're like, dude, I gotta work my ass off in order to take care of her.
Right.
And then when you have your first kid, you're like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Your anxiety kicks in, your heart rate, everything. It's so scary. And then you have this other person you have to take care of. But what's crazy is, like, when you have your kids, it motivates you in weird ways. Like you're like, I gotta do this. There's no question about it. And so it just pushes you to work harder and harder. And I think even that's why the music thing, my family was like, look, you've been doing music most of your life. You got to just start releasing some stuff. And the kids were even like, yeah, Dad, do it. And I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to do it. You live once. And so the kids, you look at the kids have inspired me to write some of the songs that I have, just from some of the experience I've had with them, and some of the experiences I've had with my wife and stuff that I would have never had if I wasn't married and didn't have kids. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that a lot in, kind of my brother, because, he used to be like a normal teenager kid, was lazy, didn't want to do anything. We were all like that at teenagers. And then I realized, when he was 18 and he had a kid, and then he wound up marrying his girlfriend, now you see nothing but work come out of my brother. And it's kind of shocking, because you're like, I never thought somebody could have that much not pressure. I mean, I guess you could call it pressure, but good pressure to put on yourself. Like, okay, I got a kid to feed. I got a wife to put a house over her head. I have to do all this and do all that.
It pushes you, man. It lights a fire under you. And just, you don't realize it, but you're like, okay, cool. Baby needs new shoes, or I got to do this, or I got to do that. And it really does. And that's why when you look at your parents, or your mom or your dad or whoever, and your grandparents, you're like, look, you guys fought, man, whether you had any money, like, you know what I mean? You're like, everyone's just trying to pay their bills to get by, but you gotta, like, I go back, I thank my mom, like, I don't know how you did it. I don't understand it. And she just said, look, you will understand it. Now I'm starting to understand it.
Yeah, I look back as one of them, because we didn't grow up with a lot of money. We were kind of the lower realm of the middle class, I guess you could call it, living check to check. And I can remember sometimes me being just a punk kid and being like, I want this. They're like, no, we can't do it this week. Well, guess what? I'm going to throw a fit until I can get it, and then you finally get whatever the thing is you wanted and realize, oh, if I wouldn't have got this, then maybe it could have happened this way, once you get older. But it's like, what's $20 here and there? Because that probably would have been wasted or bought on groceries, etc.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. And the older we get, the more mature we get. And that's why I look back and I'm like, I listen to the songs that I wrote when I was younger versus songs that I've written when I get older. And it's just, you start to, like, even when you listen to other artists, you listen to, like, the Willie Nelsons or the Johnny Cashes or whoever it might be, and you can hear the difference when they were younger versus when they're older and what the songs are about. And it's stuff like that interests me. But you can hear the maturity levels and just the different things that they talk about that they've learned in life.
I definitely can hear that. One artist that I really can hear that in is Johnny Cash, because I'm just such a big also Willie Nelson, but I think Johnny Cash more so because, he's from Arkansas, so he's not like not far from me. So we kind of know a lot about the people that are in your kind of region. And so learning that, that Johnny Cash was talking about the Ring of Fire and walking the line and then, cry, cry, cry and all that, into covering Hurt, that was his last song that was released. And it was just like, you can see the maturity grow and grow and grow.
And that to me makes me enjoy the music, even if it's not a smash hit or something. You listen to it and you're like, this is great. This is something that he pulled from his life that he's applying to his music, and he sat there and wrote about that experience or that feeling that he had. But it's amazing to hear these artists that have done that, and kids will help you do that. Having a wife or a husband, whether you're female or male or whatever, that'll help you do it. Just whatever those experiences. The older you get, the more that you have, and your emotions change and the way you react to things when you get older too.
And also, what I realized as growing up is the more you appreciate things, like, somebody would bring you home one day from school and you wouldn't be much appreciative because you're like, oh, they're just going out of their way. But now once you get older, you're like, wow, I appreciate that because like we said earlier, time is precious and they took time out of their day to do this and that. And I think that comes with maturing also, is just appreciating people for doing the little things.
You're absolutely right, man. It could be a little thing, just a little thing. Even if somebody likes your Facebook page, it's like, hey, thanks. They look at you like that was not even a big deal. Or if they like they hold the door open for you. You know what I mean? You look at them like, and nowadays I'm like, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. So I'll try to do the kind gesture back because, it's just the little things. Like even for Valentine's Day, my wife and I were like, look, you know what? Let's just sit here. We don't need to do anything. We don't even need to get each other anything. We'll watch a movie, a flick, and hang out with the kids. It's just, we're here, and let's appreciate ourselves and being together rather than having to go out and buy a materialistic thing to say that I love you or whatever it might be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, but you always... Did you guys wind up buying each other gifts, or did you do what you said and didn't buy nobody nothing?
No, we didn't. No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We kept it simple, man. And even for Christmas this year, we just kept it simple. We were just, after going through everything last year, and hopefully it gets cleaned up this year with the pandemic and stuff, we were just thankful that we're for our health and everything. We couldn't even see our families, right?
Yeah.
My mom and my sister was like, oh, I don't want to come over. I'm so nervous. Then her parents were like, well, we don't want to do a whole big Christmas thing this year. So what we did is we went up and got tested for the COVID, and then once we got our results back, my mom and sister got tested, and we hung out. And then we got tested again to go hang out with her parents. So we were just all so appreciative to be together for the time that we were all hanging out at that time, and for Christmas and stuff. So we didn't really do big gift exchanges or anything like that, to be honest with you. And the kids were pretty simple this year too, which we were thankful for.
How old are you kids, if you don't mind me asking? I'm just curious.
3, and then 2 of them just turned 7 and 9. Just turned 7 and 9. So they're youngsters. I got 3 boys, and they're wild. Our house is like a constant circus.
Especially with that.
I'm the 4th kid.
Especially
having to take care of me.
Especially with that 2 or 3-year-old that you got, because my nephew is almost 2. He'll be 2 in March. And man, we will clean the house spotless. That kid comes over, he messes everything up, and it just looks like a tornado came through when they leave.
Well, that's why we don't get many invites to come back. No, our house is the same way, man. It's like that, but it's in sections. First he'll do the living room.
Yep.
And then we'll pick it up. Then he goes to another room, and then he does that. And then he'll go into his brother's room. Then he caused a disaster there, and it sounds like a cartoon show. You'll hear his brother, get out of here. When he's 3 years old, that gets even worse after 2 years old, because 3 years old, they can start understanding. And it's kind of, they do it for reaction purposes. But what we're learning, so we would put boxes of toys from the other kids in the room for him to play with. Mm-hmm. And he would just dump the box of toys out all over the place. And he wouldn't play with all the toys. He would just find one and play with it. So I told my wife, I'm like, look, we we got to get rid of these boxes of toys. We got to put out just a couple little toys here and there. Or we're going to be constantly cleaning this stuff up, like all day long. It's a never-ending job, man. You see it. They come to your house. We go to our family, our friends' houses. And if it's family, typically they don't have young kids like this, so it's just our kids go in there and tear it up. We're constantly picking it up, and then we leave. If we go to friends' houses, they typically have a playroom, but all the kids will go in there and blow the whole place up. We'll help pick up, and then but it's non-stop. And then dishes. I mean, you have 3 boys, right? And they're constantly eating at different times, eating different things. 3-year-olds eat different things, and we're trying to. They're all picky in their own weird ways. I don't want this. I don't want that. So it's just like constant dishes, constant cups.
2 things.
Life of a parent, I'm telling you, these are the things that you learn from.
2 things that I learned from being an uncle of Mike, because my brother and sister-in-law, they live literally half a football field away. I mean, they're literally down the hill from us, and they're always over. And 2 things that I learned. 1, it does not matter how many times you mop the floors. The kid is always going to find a way to dump his sippy cup or his bottle out on the floor as soon as you mop.
Yep. Have they pulled their diapers down and pissed on the floor?
Well,
he does that constantly too. We're training him.
Probably, and we blame the dogs for it.
No, he's 2 years old. So, hey, wait, he's 2 years old, so wait, he won't start doing it until right when he's close to 3. Like between 2.5 and 3, when you're trying to potty train, like they'll get sick and tired of wearing the diaper.
No, that's now. That's now. He hates wearing the diaper, and then he will take it off, and then we'll go find a corner to poop in, because a lot of the babies, they'll hide and poop, and that's what he'll do, and then we'll find it later. And then the second.
Then he'll come back and like my wife left one day, and she's like, all right, just make sure you keep an eye on him because he's in that stage. So I'm like, it's all good. He's quiet. And she calls me, hey, where is he? And then I go look at him, and he's in the backyard. He's got poop on his hands.
Oh, man.
Off, and he's playing with it. And I'm like, oh, my God, dude. I'm like, let's go.
And the second thing is always, they have their favorite toy, so you put that on top. But every day, they're like, no, I want something from the very bottom, and they'll dump everything out, get that one toy, play with it for 10 seconds, be like, I forgot how boring this was, throw it away, and they continue to play with like Buzz and Woody and stuff.
Yeah, constantly. Like they'll dump out a whole box of these toys for a little Hot Wheel car that he wants, or a little dirt bike toy. And then he'll play with that for a few minutes, go to the next room, and then he'll do whatever he's doing in there. So, like, if for their birthdays or whatever, if like an aunt or an uncle or something gets them a present, and they have given them like a board game with a bunch of little pieces. It's like a kid's board game or whatever. I'm like, no. Because the first thing they'll do is open it, dump it out. They don't even play a board game, right? Like, oh, this is a cool little object. Like you said, toys from Woody, from Toy Story or whatever. They'll just, that's it. There's 50 pieces now laying on the floor. Or they'll go out and grab a deck of cards and just throw those down. And you don't know how many decks of cards that we've gone through that are mismatched that they're useless now, right?
Yeah.
He rips them, he couples on them. I don't know if your nephew's done this, but they grab crayons or Sharpies or something, they write on the walls. I mean,
not yet. But let me tell you what he does. He loves to take like sweet and sour sauce or Chick-fil-A sauce. He loves to take that, dip his nuggets in it, and then when he's done with it, take it, put it in his hands, and then finger paint all over the coffee table and then on the furniture and stuff like that.
You can't do anything but love them for it. You're like, dude, you're a kid. That's what you're meant to do. You're meant to wreak chaos and stuff. Because once they hit the 4 or 5-year-old thing, it's different. If they don't do that much, and then they hit 6 or 7, then they're just kind of chill. They're like, oh, they're on their iPads even when they're 3 or whatever. But 4 or 5, they get chiller, man. We don't have girls, but the 7 and 9-year-old are just they're a lot of fun, man. Like the young guy, the 3-year-old, he's fun too, but it's a different fun. You know what I mean? It's like we constantly have to helicopter him. The other ones are just like, hey, let's go jump on the dirt bike and roll. He's like, all right, let's go. 3-year-old's like, all right, set me on the gas tank, and just then you have to make sure you don't burn his leg on the muffler or something. Make sure he's wearing his boots.
Yeah.
But,
Who was that?
Always evolving. We're always learning something new.
And if we weren't, then we wouldn't be in this life.
Exactly. And that's what makes it fun. And,
yep.
you know, I'd be bored as hell if I didn't have those kids. I'll tell you that much. And they'll come in, and when we're writing songs and stuff, and they'll come in and, like, sit down and tell me, hey, I don't like that word. I don't like this word. There's a song, the F word we used, and the boys were back in town, and they called it the F word song. They're like, Dad, play the F word song. Play the F word song because they just find it funny.
Because they know it's a dirty word, and they're not allowed to say it, so they love it when their dad says it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like I'm gonna be cussing around them and stuff anyway. So, but when we say it, we all laugh about it. Oh, that's great.
Who is that one artist for you, man, that just kind of changed your output on music? Not necessarily your hero or artist you look up to, but that one artist where that just made you started listening to music differently.
You know, I always say Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, and Mo Haggard, but Willie Nelson is probably because he's still alive. I really wanted to see him live in concert, so we went a few years ago and saw him. And I like him. I like all of them, but watching him grow old and how he's never changed and what he writes his songs about, how he handles himself, he seems like he's just really authentic, and he just is who he is. And I would have to say Willie Nelson for sure.
Yeah, dude, I'm kind of right there with you. Willie Nelson is one of my all-time favorite singers, period, any genre of all time. And it's weird because, you know, me and you together, combined our ages, we have not seen Willie Nelson young. We only know old Willie Nelson besides, you know, the pictures that we see online and stuff like that. And so that's what's crazy to me, is that he's been around for this long that you don't even remember what he looked like young. And when you see him, you're like, that's Willie Nelson? There's no way.
You nailed it, man. And when you look at him young, he still has that damn braid in his hair, but he just doesn't have the silver hair.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. When we think Willie Nelson, you're right. The way he looks right now is how we know him, and how he's been since we were kids, man. And he doesn't seem to have changed one bit. He's just rolls around on his tour bus. I believe he might even have the same tour bus. He does his shows. He gets up on stage. And I mean, he was fragile when he was on stage when I saw him. But it was so respectable, man. He was up there playing his guitar. He had his bandana, and I think one or both of his sons were in his band. And they're a very close-knit family, which I really like. And that's what probably keeps him going. He gets to go share his music with people, and everyone like me and everyone else gets to enjoy it. And it's amazing to see him do what he does at his age.
What's your favorite Willie Nelson song?
Oh, man. I have a ton of them. I'd say all of them, really. Oh, man. The one that I listen to most, I don't know, On the Road Again is a good one. There's some of the older ones. Always on My Mind. I don't know. On the Road Again is one of my favorites because I seem to be listening to that one whenever I'm in the car. And it's a chill song. But
yeah.
I don't know. I like all of them.
Man, you know.
There's a moment and a place for each one of his songs. That's my point. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. And for me, you know, that one song of Willie Nelson, which I think is probably one of the greatest songs ever to be written in any genre, is Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground. And I remember when I first heard that song, I had to stop, skip it back, and be like, whoa, what did I just listen to? And just listen to the beautiness and the brilliance of that song.
Yeah, and then I'd love to meet Willie. You know what I mean? I'd like to ask him, like, hey, what inspired you on this? And I'd probably not even want to talk business with him or anything because he's probably tired of that. You know what I mean? But it's like, but like some of his newer stuff. If you listen to that versus some of the stuff that was written in like the 70s, it's kind of a big difference. You know what I mean? So I just want to find out how it evolved and what was that one inspiration that he had. What inspires Willie? You know what I mean?
You know,
it's probably light.
And what really inspires me from Willie Nelson is that he keeps constantly putting out albums. Like I think he put out 2 in 1 year a few years ago, and now he's got another one coming out. He's constantly writing this new music, and it's good. It's I mean, now are they as good as the other ones? No, but they're still classic, genuine Willie Nelson songs.
Yeah, there's a story about something going on with him or whatever. But yeah, I agree with you. But that's why I like him so much. He's just been who he has been since the very beginning of his career, and there hasn't been much drama or anything interesting that I'm aware of. It's one of those things where we were at Stagecoach, and it's a big show here in Southern California. It's a country concert, and we went down, and our goal was to see Willie Nelson. We're like, we're going. That's what we're going to do. So we're sitting there by the main stage, and you can see they're kind of setting up and doing their thing. And
sure,
we've had a few beers, we're a bit buzzed. Maybe some of us are drunk. and so time's ticking. We're like, wait a second, where's Willie Nelson? And we asked the person next to us after we were standing there for 20 minutes. We said, hey, where's Willie Nelson? And they said, he's on the stage over there.
Oh,
like, no way. We went over there, and he wrapped up his set, and we're like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I said, we need to find out where his next show is. So we Googled it, and 2 days after that, it was in Santa Barbara, at the Santa Barbara Bowl. So we left that next day, and we went up to the Santa Barbara Bowl. And we left Stagecoach. We bought tickets for the whole show, the whole weekend and stuff. But we all of us want to see Willie Nelson so bad. That's where we went. We went to go see Willie Nelson. And we drove a few hours north, and we parked our ride, and we all hung out and drank beers and went into the show. It was a great show, I'll tell you that much. Santa Barbara Bowl is a beautiful, beautiful place too.
How long is a genuine Willie Nelson concert? Because you got to think he's had 80-something albums probably, and a lot of songs that come out of it. Like I would figure a good 3 hours is probably a decent amount of time.
You know, I don't think it was quite 3 hours, but it was definitely a good 2 hours. Yeah, it was definitely a good 2 hours. I don't think it was near 3 hours. But plus, at the Santa Barbara Bowl, I think they had a certain time limit because it was surrounded my residential neighborhood, so they had to shut it down at a certain time, and you could Google that too. But it was definitely a good solid 2 hours. But I mean, they have this bar at the top of the concert, the venue, and it overlooks Santa Barbara, and you can see the ocean and stuff like that. So I mean, we'd go back and forth, get beers. There wasn't much of a line either. I mean, when you're at a Willie Nelson concert, I mean, you're sitting there, people are passing around joints and stuff like that. It's like, having beer, and you're drinking beers. Like my buddies brought some shots in and stuff like that. So we're just, whenever we ran out, we're running back getting refills. But other than that, time, it seemed slow at the time, but it flew by.
Yeah, you know. You mentioned your people were passing joints back and forth. You know, I've never done any type of drugs, not even pot, no alcohol, no tobacco, nothing like that in my whole entire life. Never really wanted to, because I've seen how it can wreck, you know, some of my family members, and then also, you know, just the entertainment industry in general. But I sit there and I was like, you know, there would be 3 people, if they were to ask me, hey, smoke this joint, there would be 3 people I would not say no to. It would be Willie Nelson, Snoop Dogg, and Joe Rogan. Those 3 people. They're like,
I'm with you, and I have to tell you, I don't smoke weed either. I have, but it's not my gig. You know what I mean? I've seen it wreck some of my family members and close friends of mine. You know what I mean? It just takes, it's like whatever. It is what it is. But people have their own thing. But I would do the same thing. I would smoke with those 3 individuals as well. Snoop Dogg, Willie Nelson, and Joe Rogan. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, and
I heard, I believe Snoop Dogg has been outsmoked by Willie Nelson.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
No, Snoop Dogg admitted it. He said he was with Willie Nelson and got outsmoked. He said he couldn't hang.
And this is a real story. Like, this is a true.
It's a real story. Yeah, this is probably I don't know 4 or 5 years ago.
No, I didn't hear it. No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah. Check it out when we get off the phone.
Okay. Well, that's interesting because, there's this comedian that I like, and his name is Bert Kreischer, and he was talking about, and he wasn't telling jokes or anything. He was talking about the first time he smoked pot with Snoop Dogg, and he said it was like a giant. He said it had to at least weigh half a pound, and it was just this giant. I kind of imagine it as a small torpedo. Is kind of what I would imagine it as.
You're probably right. I couldn't imagine smoking that much, man. Like, if I'm around it, I feel like I'm getting like a contact high or something like that, especially at one of those shows. There's just weed everywhere. You know what I mean? And people, like, before the pandemic, right? That's when we went to the show. I mean, these joints are slobbery, right? All over the zigzag and stuff. There's like, my buddies are sharing joints with other people they don't even know. And then their wives are, like, you'll see, like, this husband-wife couple, they're smoking between the two, and then they hand it back to the next dude that they don't know, the next one, and it circulates. And it's like all this slobbery stuff in the joint, man. And like, yeah, I think it'll be different moving forward, maybe, but it was pretty entertaining to watch, to say the least.
Well, I say those three because they're just three very, very different individuals. Because, like, Willie Nelson, obviously, he's known for his smoking pot and stuff like that. So that would be kind of legendary to do. But Snoop Dogg, in my opinion, is very, very funny. Like, I think he's one of the funniest humans alive. And can you just imagine smoking a joint with Snoop Dogg and just listening to this big, black, tall guy tell stories?
I've seen him in concert, too. I saw him at Bottle Rock. And, by the way, I love Snoop Dogg. He's hilarious. Have you seen the roast that he was part of?
Yeah.
There's a couple roasts that he's been part of. Snoop Dogg is funnier than all hell. And also, I'd like to smoke a joint with Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle, to me, is the funniest guy on the planet. I think Snoop Dogg is right there with him. And I don't know if you've seen Snoop Dogg live.
No.
But if you get a chance, he's amazing, man. He's a pro, like an absolute pro, man. He gets up there and it's all him. He's just fluid, just so fluid. But I'm right there with you. I'd love to just sit there and have conversations with these guys, and just Joe Rogan too. I mean, if you listen to his podcast, he's great. He's amazing.
Very intelligent.
Dave Chappelle's up there with me.
I would, in my opinion, Dave Chappelle is hilarious, but I think Chris Rock out-funnies Dave Chappelle.
Do you?
Oh my goodness!
Fan, but I'm more of a Dave Chappelle. I'm that type of humor. Like I like Chris Rock, but yeah, I'm with you. They're both funny, man. They're both funny.
And then right there with Dave Chappelle as well is Bill Burr. I think Bill Burr is one of the funniest people on the planet.
What about Kevin Hart? I saw the new stand-up of Kevin Hart. He did it in the basement of his house. Man, I brought tears to my eyes, some of those moments that he had. I mean, it was hilarious.
Yeah,
Dave Chappelle had a new one, and so did Kevin Hart, and I'd say they're both really good.
Yeah, it's crazy because like Chris Rock, and Eddie Murphy as well. But yeah, I find Chris Rock. He did this new. Well, it's not new. It's called Tambourine, and it's on Netflix. And I remember him telling the joke about coming to Mississippi. And he was he's like, people say God never makes mistakes. Apparently, you ain't never been to Mississippi. And he would go like. And he would no, Chris Rock.
Oh, Chris Rock. Okay, that's funny.
Yeah, and he would go like, how people call it M-I crooked letter I, whatever like that. I've never heard anybody use this as a joke, but Chris Rock was just burning Mississippi, but for its racial reasons and stuff that needed to be burned on, right? Yeah. And he was going. He said the God ain't never made mistakes. Well, you ain't ever been to Mississippi. And he went, M-I crooked letter I, T-A-K-E. And I could not breathe.
Now, I've never been to Mississippi too. That's probably why I didn't understand it completely. You know what I mean? That's why
Yeah.
They're great, man. They're great. Yeah, we should send out requests to their managers. Let's be like, look, we just want to smoke weed with these guys. You know what else I want to do though? What else I want to do is I'd like to play catch with a professional quarterback, like a Tom Brady or Drew Brees or whoever it might be. You know what I mean? I'd like to do a running pass, a couple running passes, just to see what it feels like to get, because those guys look like they throw like 70, 100 miles an hour at these bullets. But I was like, man, I'd love to do that too, man.
You can have fun with that. You can have fun with that, man.
It just seems, I was watching the Super Bowl and I was like, damn, these guys throw hard. And these wide receivers, I mean, these balls are going slipping right through their hands and stuff. And so it was just me and my buddies were talking about it. It was one of those things.
Well, Dave, look, we've been going an hour on this thing. Go ahead and just give all your, whatever you want to promote. You got all the time in the world. And I really do appreciate your time that you've given me, even though we've had some screw ups during the day.
I'm a screw up anyways. Hey, man, it's the only thing I want to plug. I mean, social media is so difficult to get followers on. I'd say just follow me, Dave Herrera Live on Instagram. Check out Facebook at Dave Herrera Music. And then my website, Dave Herrera Live. It's Dave, HERRERALIVE.com. So just check it out. Follow us. Check out the shit show on YouTube. Check out our new music videos, Hollywood Sign, visit Nashville, and then you can check out the new song that we quietly released called Boys We're Back in Town. And then we have a lot more music that we're releasing this year, along with some other videos, and hopefully some more of the shit show coming your way.
Dave, my friend, it's been great meeting you, great chatting with you. I could see we could get along really well. So if you put out any more new music, I'd love to have you on the show to promote and talk about that and finish our shenanigan talks.
I'd love to too, and we get some shows in Mississippi in the next year or two. I'm calling you. I need you to show me around.
All right, you got a deal, man.